Welcome to another edition of Medical Device Packaging TV. This program is brought to you by Stahl Scientific. Join us today as we explore together important issues surrounding sterile and critical packaging. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Medical Device Packaging TV.
Hi, I'm Jan Gates with PackWise Consulting, and I'm here today to talk about performance qualification for your packaging process. With the CFR 820.75A, they talk about process validations in a particular manner. It says on the CFR, where the results of a process cannot be fully verified by subsequent inspection and test, the process shall be validated with a high degree of assurance and approved per established procedures. This is what happens when you're doing a seal validation. You cannot continuously monitor the seal strength or whether you have a continuous seal, so you have to validate your process. With a PQ, it's the process of obtaining and documenting evidence that the equipment, as installed and operated in accordance with operational processes and procedures, consistently performs in accordance with predetermined criteria and therefore yields product meeting its specification. Now that's the ISO 11607-2 definition of a PQ. In both cases with a PQ and the OQ, we talked about before, you're working for repeatability and reproducibility. You want to make sure you have results that are repeatable and that you can actually do from one day to the next. With a PQ, you can use actual or simulated devices. You have to do a minimum of 3 production lot runs, and you want them consecutive production lot runs. Then you want to make sure that your process is repeatable and reproducible, and that you verify that your package and product, or the SBS, that when it gets sterilized it's an SBS, then you want to make sure that those requirements are met. You have to know your equipment tolerances and your production speeds with this, because I cannot tell you how many times I've seen with clients and previous companies I've worked in that we do a validation and then all of a sudden they run up the speed and make it faster, and then the seals don't work as well and they don't understand. So you have to make sure you are actually doing your process validation or your production qualification with the actual production speeds that you're going to be running. You have to know your material, what kind of sealing parameters you need. You have to have that established, hopefully with a DOE of some type that tells you that you're actually taking your process parameters from the middle of the optimum area for sealing with the 3 different areas that you need to know about with time, temperature, and pressure. And then you have to know your equipment tolerances and, again, your production capacity, because your sealing time is different than your seal cooling time, and you have to make sure that that seal cools enough to actually set properly before you actually remove it from your machine. Now, when you're doing your sealing, you have to make sure that you have a validated test method for testing your seals. And this is usually with a seal strength test like ASTM F88. And you want to make sure that you have a continuous seal when you're looking at it. And continuous means you can do a visual inspection or a dye penetration test. There are other types of test methods that you can use, but those 2 are the most common that I've seen. When you're doing an acceptable OQ, well, you had to complete an acceptable OQ before you start doing a PQ. In closing, with your packaging process performance qualification, or your PQ, process qualification, you need to use actual or simulated device. The simulated device, you have to document and show that it's actually like your actual device, or else you're not really doing a PQ. You need a minimum of 3 consecutive production lot runs. You have to make sure that your process controls and capabilities are acceptable. You have to make sure your process is repeatable and reproducible. You need to verify that your production or your package and product requirements are met. And you have to challenge the process with your expected manufacturing conditions. So if you have a shift change and everything stops, if you don't you have to add that in there, and maybe that would be a new lot for you. I do not know how you would set that up. You have to define your lot for your company. And you have to work on determining what your essential process variables are and monitor them and record them.
This program is brought to you by Stahl Scientific. Discover why organizations like the Department of Defense, NASA, and the Center for Disease Control make Stahl Scientific a prime partner. Each episode, Medical Device Packaging TV brings more important insight from industry experts. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Medical Device Packaging TV.
Stahl Scientific. Innovations in critical packaging.